let's talk about Q3 24 earnings here. All right. Perlabis, makers of Black Desert Online, also owners of CCP Games, who make EVE Online. Those are their two big franchises, gaming franchises. They come out with quarterly reports, and we typically on the stream talk about them because most of us are interested, hey, in how is EVE Online doing financially, okay? Let's start with the overview here, and immediately there are some bad news here for Perlabis as a whole, because their quarter-over-quarter revenue is down by 2.8%. So here it says 79.5 billion Korean won. That's about $58.6 million, right? And year over year, if you compare it to a quarter a year ago, Q3 23, the revenue fell 6%. So that's not good news. Okay, this is pretty bad, especially if you look at the revenue over the last 5 quarters, which essentially has been going down every quarter, right? This is definitely one of the worst quarters that they've had in recent times. And why is that overall? Well, most of that is because Black Desert Online is not performing well. Okay, Black Desert Online is literally most of, like, it's 70% of their revenue. If we're looking at it right here, you can see it down here. Look, this is the revenue split between Black Desert and EVE. So you can see here, Black Desert is the dark blue bars, and that has been going down steadily, and it hit a very, very low 54 billion Korean won in this quarter. Whereas EVE, yes, EVE Online is down from last quarter. It's down 5%. But if you compare it year over year, which makes a lot of sense because, you know, this game is very cyclical and it's 20 years old, you can see that Q3 23 we were at 16 billion and now we're at 20 billion. So year over year, EVE Online revenue is actually up 28%, which is fantastic, right? This is for EVE, after having posted a huge Q2 with the Equinox expansion, having a Q3 that is 20 billion is really massive. Now, keep in mind, this is until the end of September, right? This doesn't include October. We'll talk about the outlook in a second here, but this is already a really, really great for EVE Online. Okay, let me go back quickly and look at the operating performance, because a company's performance is not just revenue, it also needs profits, right? And let's look at operating profit or loss, okay? Operating profit is the profit they're making from day-to-day activities, which is making and selling video games, okay? They are posting a pretty massive operating loss here of minus 10 billion Korean won. And this is the worst result, and even if compared to 1 year ago, this is terrible, okay? And if you look at their net profit, net loss, it's not as bad. It's much better, but still they're posting a loss here. The reason it's not as bad as the operating loss is because Pearl Abyss actually has has income from their financial investments. So it's financial income. We don't know exactly what it is. It could be, buying and selling shares in an investment in companies. It could be a million other things, but it's certainly not directly from making and selling video games. So this does not bode well for Pearl Abyss's ability to monetize their video game franchises. Now, part of this is because of if you have a look at their franchises, EVE Online, 20 years old, fairly steady or stagnant, depending on whether you want to look at it positive or negative. Black Desert Online is also getting kind of old and is at least not gaining players. It has been rather consistently, losing players. It's in a very tough space overall. Even though it was launched in China, or it's getting ready to launch in China, it's they've just not been able to do so. They have a big franchise coming out, which is Crimson Desert. Crimson Desert is their new AAA game that is coming out. They premiered it at Gamescom, and that is what most investors are hinging their hopes on. So, if you're wondering, the Pearl Abyss stock actually only dropped a few percentage points. This is where the announcement was. So it dropped a little bit here from 37,000 to 35,000, but it has since recovered already. That means that investors were already expecting them to do this badly, so it didn't come as a surprise. And really, the only hope that they're pinning on this is what you see here under new IP. So you see Crimson Desert, which just premiered at Gamescom, and they had a demo with like one boss fight, and yada yada. And they're hoping that Black Desert will do better in China going forward. And then we have two Eve related games that are not EVE Online. Okay, we have EVE Frontier. So there was another playtest. They're putting a lot of hopes in EVE Frontier. Investors love to hear blockchain game, blah blah blah, right? And then they have EVE Galaxy Conquest, which is the new mobile game which launched at the end of October. So EVE Galaxy Conquest is not in these numbers yet, but they're pinning their hopes on it because other gaming companies are making a lot of money from these mobile games, right? Now, I don't think EVE Galaxy Conquest is going to do well in the West. I don't think that a lot of people are going to play it because it's aimed, there are a lot of games like that already out there, which is essentially, like little pay-to-win strategy games for your mobile phone. It might, like, I've only played it briefly, right? It might be great, but what I already know is there are a lot of pay to win elements in it and pay to save time elements in it, and it's going to not. I don't think it's going to appeal to your average EVE Online player. So I don't think that this is necessarily going to work. They want to either draw in people. They want to draw in mobile gamers with Galaxy Conquest to draw into EVE Online, or the other way around. And, I don't know. I wish them luck. I don't think this is going to work. Because for example, I'm not interested at all in a game like EVE Galaxy Conquest, and I don't think anyone that plays those type of games is going to be a player that is then going to move over to EVE Online. But hey, we'll see. So back to the IP split. The bottom line is this: Black Desert Online, not doing well. EVE Online, doing quite well, especially for the age of the game. Overall, Pearl Abyss, not doing well. The only reason they're not really, really loss-making is because of their the financial income that they have from their investments. And overall, the outlook is just that they are hinging all of their hopes on the new IP. And I don't necessarily think that the EVE Online, the new EVE Online IP that's coming out, is going to do it for them. Possibly Crimson Desert will, but hey. There is one more interesting thing that we can look at, and that is their operating expenses. The operating expenses for the quarter were 88 billion Korean won compared to a year ago 82 billion, and a quarter ago 87 billion. You can see that their advertising expenses have gone up by 22%, and a lot of that is Crimson Desert. So you can see they're pushing everything into this new game, and we'll see what happens. One other thing that they mentioned in the call when analysts asked was, one, very interestingly, they said they had very high tax audit cost of 2.5 billion, which is, I wonder why that wasn't the case a year ago in Q3, or why it's that much higher, but possibly it was. The quarter was just better. And then they said they had increased electrical costs because of the hot summer in Korea, I guess. But that's also, they said 500 million won, which is only 500K, which is really not that interesting when you're when you have a loss of 9 billion, right? But that was all asked. They were asked about blockchain token sales on the call as well, but they did not answer, or they referred all of the questions towards CCP, because in the end, like what we have seen in these financial statements over the last year or two is we do see income here and there on the CCP side from selling blockchain tokens, right? And we've also seen, I'm pretty sure we've also seen CCP given out blockchain tokens as a benefit to their key employees, right? So at least they're issuing these tokens already, presumably for their own blockchain on Ethereum, that in the future is going to be the backbone of Eve Frontier. So remember, Eve Frontier is going to be entirely on the blockchain, right? So their in-game currency is going to be able to be exchanged for real-life currency. And so right now, what they can already do is they can start issuing these tokens and selling these tokens, and essentially getting investors invested into the tokens that are going to represent the currency in eFrontier in the future. So that's, you know, I don't know how that's going to end up, but that's going to be obviously massively interesting to see, especially because there hasn't really been anyone been able to do this successfully anywhere, right? So it's if Hilmar, and I especially say Hilmar because this is all Hilmar's vision, if Hilmar can pull it off and actually release a blockchain game where the currency can be basically traded in for real money, where items in game have a real life value. If he can pull that off successfully, then obviously that's going to be a huge deal in the gaming world. But you know, I am very skeptical, and you guys know that. All right, that's we can look at the outlook. Let's see, Q4 highlights. Existing IP expansion, clearly. On Eve we have the Revenant, which already happened. We're in Q4 now. New content for Eve Vanguard, and then another play test, and they're going to want to see how Galaxy Conquest does. Crimson Desert is going to come out at the end of 2025, I think. Cool. All right, we're gonna return to the regular stream, and then see you guys next quarter.